We are in week 9, unit 11 grammar. This is a pretty challenging grammar, so this will be the only grammar for the week. It's going to take quite a bit of time to be able to work through this. We are talking about two past tense, both of which you are familiar, the imperfect and the preterite. But now we need to distinguish when to use each one. So let's talk about them separately first, and then we'll combine them together. Preterite on the left side is beginning and end of an action, completed action, series of completed actions, the action on this stage. It's a very specific point in time. You can identify it like a bullseye. The imperfect is something that's habitual or repeated, ongoing, it's background information, or it's the setting for the action, which is bouncing along in the background. So if you were to tell what you did yesterday, we'll be using the preterite or the imperfect. The preterite. To tell what you used to do when you were in grade school, what would you use? The imperfect. The clue here is used to. Okay? There's not a specific time. When you see used to, we know that we're doing imperfect. To describe background details, like physical and mental states, imperfect. Okay, so this is an additional information to what was listed up here, background information. Things that relate to people's physical or mental state of mind will lead towards imperfect. To tell about a completed action, definitely preterite. To talk about the way things used to be, there's the used to again. That's imperfect. To describe an action that was in progress, bouncing and bouncing along, imperfect. Now let's do it in Spanish. Para dar detalles de fondo, background information y descripciones, como el tiempo y la hora. To give background in details and descriptions like the weather and the time. Imperfecto. Notice how we have a little bit more detail to add to the imperfect, weather and time. Para hablar de acciones habituales. To talk about habitual actions or ongoing bouncing actions. Imperfecto. Para narrar acciones completadas. To narrate completed actions. Completed, those are very specific, beginning and end. Pretérito. Para hablar de hábitos personales. To talk about personal habits. Habits, those are habitual. Imperfect. Para hablar de una acción en progreso. To talk about an action in progress. Progress is the clue, right? Moving along, bouncing along. Imperfecto. Para narrar una secuencia de acciones. To narrate a sequence of actions. Now this one could be tricky. These aren't ongoing actions, but things that happen first, next, and last. The preterite. Para decir lo que pasaba cuando otra acción ocurrió. To tell when something was happening when another action interrupted. The one that is happening, ing, would be the imperfect, and the interrupted action would be the preterite. Okay? So the first one is imperfect. The interrupted action, that's the preterite. Para describir condiciones y estados físicos o afectivos. To describe conditions or physical, emotional states. That is the imperfect, imperfecto. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to think about this. This might help you, or the next slide might help you. If you ask, when did this happen? And the answer is very specific, point in time, go towards preterite. If it's general, if you can't hit it with a dart on a calendar, that's imperfect. Or if the answer is one and done, preterite. If it's ongoing, used to, was happening, imperfect. And here's your third way to think about it. So Simba cheated. Simba is going to be our acronym for remembering preterite actions, a single action, interrupted action. The preterite would be the interrupted action. the main event on the stage, what is actually happening, the beginning or end of event, an arrival or a departure. Okay? And over on the right side, cheated, is going to be the acronym for imperfect. Characteristics, descriptions, habitual action or health, emotion, age, time, an endless action, and a date. The last way to look at it is what's written down below, safe waters. There's tons of ways, tons of tricks to look at this. Pick the one that works best for you. So for preterite, specific instance or number of times, one and done. Action that interrupts an ongoing event. Focus on beginning or end of action, enclosed amount of time. Imperfect, the weather, age, time, emotion, repetition, setting, or description. All right, our preterite trigger words. Una vez, one time. Ayer, yesterday. The day before yesterday. Last night, last week. If I asked you when, you could throw a dart on the calendar and give me a specific date or time. That's preterite. So any words that would give you a specific date or time will trigger the preterite. Here's one, a little phrase. Desde el primer momento always triggers the preterite. These are verbs that talk about starts and stops. Comenzar, empezar, terminar, acabar. Those would be used with the preterite. So preterite is used with a completed at a certain point in the past. Ayer. Parts of a series of events, first, second, last, first we did this, then we did that, or repeated actions a certain amount of time. So fui a la playa, I went to the beach, I did that first, y me puse las chanclas, and I put on my sandals. La llamé 3 veces, I called her 3 times, very specific amount of times, pero nunca contestó, but she never answered. Went on for a certain amount of time, very specific. La película duró 2 horas y media. The movie lasted 2 hours and a half, very specific. An interrupted action, something was happening when something else happened. So the first thing that's happening is the bouncing, imperfect. I was sleeping, ing, when, there's your little trigger, I heard the phone, preterite. Okay? So something's bouncing along, and the preterite, bam, interrupts and crashes into it. So there are specific verbs that talk about specific events. And these specific events will be used with the preterite. Casarse, to get married. Graduarse, to graduate. Morir, and nacer. These you can all hit on a calendar. Conjugating the preterite. So it's haste, o, amos, aron for AR verbs. Y, iste, yo, imos, ieron for ER verbs. And same for IRs. Y, iste, yo, imos. We have our spelling changers. The cars, CAR, changed to QUE, or to retain that k sound. Busqué, buscaste, buscó, buscamos, buscaron. The GARs change from GAR to GU. Pagué, pagaste, pagó, pagamos, pagaron. The ZARs change to a C. Empecé, empezaste, empezó, empezamos, empezaron. Those spelling changes only happen in first person. We're trying to retain the original sound of the original verb. Buscar. If I had left the C, that would be busé. That's not the original k, so I put a QU to give me that sound. Okay. Pagar, g. If I would put the G and then the E accent, this would have changed the sound of the G to he. I need a G, so I put a U after it. And then the Z for us says a C, so this one's a little bit harder, but it's pronounced slightly different in different parts of Spain and Chile and some other places. So you put the C in instead of the Z. We know the rule that we can't have an I trapped in the middle of 2 vowels, and that would happen in third person, singular and plural. C-R-E-I-O, we can't trap an I in the middle of 2 vowels, so change them to a Y. When we have our stem changers, we only do a stem change in IR verbs in the preterite. Leave AR and ER alone. And E's will change to I's, and O's will change to U's. There's no IE, there's no UE. Okay, these are your example verbs. And then we have our list of irregulars, that just have to be memorized. Remember, ir to go, ser to be, both are conjugated the same. Just a review right there. And now we have our irregular stems. The regular stems also have an irregular ending. Okay, these are the group of the stems. The stem changes and the ending's going to change too. First person and third person are the ones that are going to go weird. Okay, we're going to talk about imperfect trigger words. Okay? A menudo, often, sometimes, before, while, when, occasionally. Any ly word, like constantly, usually, okay, those would end in mente in Spanish. Those will trigger the imperfect. Okay, they're not very specific. So to describe what things were like, and how people felt in the past. This is storytelling. Hacía calor, there's the weather. Nosotros no teníamos, we didn't have a lot of money. Y yo tenía hambre, I was hungry. Okay, so you're setting the stage for a story. There's no action that happened just yet, just setting the stage. To describe habitual action in the past, what used to happen, what things were like. Mi amigo llamaba a su madre cada día. My friend used to call his mom every day, or my friend would call his mom every day. Would, used to. To describe what was happening when something else took place, we already talked about this. So cuando means when I was drinking, ing, we know that's imperfect. When I was drinking coffee, my boyfriend called. Preterite. That's the interrupted action. This is the bouncing one. I was drinking coffee, and the preterite crashed into it, interrupted my action, and my boyfriend called. Telling time and stating age, eran las 7 de la noche, la niña tenía 5 años. So it was 7 o'clock and the girl was 5 years old. When you see desde plus time, this is going to come up again if you take 2312, then that will also trigger the imperfect. Since 2020. Okay. I've been working there for about 3 months. Desde hacía 3 meses. Hacía plus time, and then que plus the verb. Hacía mucho tiempo que salían juntos. They had been going out together for a long time. It's not specific. Hacía 2 años que vivíamos en La Paz. We have been living in La Paz for 2 years. Although 2 years is specific, the idea of they were living, it's bouncing along, bouncing over time. Okay, to conjugate your imperfect, AR verbs are aba, abas, aba, abamos, aban. ERs and IRs, ia, ias, ia, íamos, ian, íamos, ian. This one's much easier to conjugate. Here are your irregulars. Now we have some verbs that, depending if we use them in the preterite or the imperfect, they will change meaning. This is definitely a focus in the lesson. Tener. Okay? Tener means to have. Can also mean to receive. María tuvo una carta de su mamá. María received a letter from her mom. Okay? So when I use it in the preterite, the meaning changed. Okay? In the imperfect, it will retain the original meaning, to have. Juan tenía un coche. Juan used to have a car. Saber. Saber is to know. When I use it in the preterite, it changes meaning and it means found out. María lo supo ayer. María found out yesterday. When I use it in the imperfect, it retains its meaning of to know. Juan sabía que María venía. Juan knew that Maria was coming. Poder. Poder means to be able to. When used in the preterite, the meaning changes to succeed in. María pudo levantar la mesa. María succeeded in lifting the table. And then in the imperfect, it has its original meaning. Juan podía participar en la manifestación. Juan was able to participate in the demonstration. Querer and no querer. These are the two that are going to be used quite a bit. Querer means to want. In the preterite, it'll mean tried. María quiso comprar la casa. María tried to buy the house. In the imperfect, it's regular wanted. María quería comprar la casa. María wanted to buy the house. Now if I put no in front of querer in the preterite, it means refused. María no quiso comprar la casa. María refused to buy the house. In the imperfect, it's didn't want, like normal. Juan no quería comprar la casa. Juan did not want to buy the house. Okay, let's look at this little paragraph in English. And let's find out what parts of this paragraph are in the imperfect, meaning background information, setting the stage, what something or someone was like, time or age, mental and emotional characteristics. When I was 10 years old and my sister was 8, we loved going on picnics. One spring day, we went on a picnic in a nearby park. The sun was shining and it was warm. After we finished eating, we ran races and played games. All right, so each of these sentences or compound sentences have verbs. It's kind of what we want to focus on. I was 10 years old. Okay? Is this a completed action series of events, the plot, or is this background information, age, emotion, telling time? Oops, there it is. When I was 10 years old. Definitely that's setting the stage, and it's also telling age in the past. Again, my sister was 8, telling age in the past, setting the stage. We loved going on picnics. This is something that happened over and over and over again, not a specific date or time. That's imperfect. And then what's not underlined would be preterite. One spring day, we went. Specific. When did you go one spring day? Can you tell me what day that was? I'll put it on the calendar for you. We went on a picnic in a nearby park. Back to background information. The sun was shining and it was warm. That's not the action of the story. It's just background information. After we finished eating, we ran races and played games. So if I were to take out the preterite part and read that, that's the action of the story. One spring day, we went on a picnic in a nearby park. After we finished eating, we ran races and played games. Very direct. The rest of it is just all extra background information to set the stage. All right, so I have my sentence in English, and the bolded word is your vocab word. We need to decide if we're going to use the imperfect or the preterite. Yesterday morning, the day started like always. The verb started is comenzar. All right, comenzar is a trigger word. It's the beginning of an action. The word actually means to begin, so we'll always go with preterite. Comenzó. I arrived at work and I closed the door. Llegar, cerrar. Llegué. This is the action, it's happening, and I closed. Cerré. I wasn't doing it over and over again. This is what happened. As I was entering, we're seeing the INGs again. That's the bouncing one. Through the main entrance to the hospital, I heard a lot of noise and saw a whole bunch of people near the reception desk. As I was entering, entraba, imperfect. It's a bouncing action. Then all of a sudden, I heard preterite. So this is the ongoing action which was interrupted by imperfect and then interrupted by preterite and interrupted by preterite. So I saw and I heard. All of them were yelling. I have ing, right? And we're looking up towards a balcony in the hospital. This is ongoing. It's happening. Gritaban, miraban, imperfect. There was a terrified man up there who was wearing only a hospital gown and was standing. Okay, there was. And you're telling like a story at the beginning, you say había, always imperfect. And he was wearing, that's ing, that's imperfect. Y paraba, he was standing, ing, imperfect. He yelled, oh, okay, so this is some real action. Él gritó, he yelled. Tell them not to give me that flu shot or I'll jump. Well, I knew this man. Okay, this one is new. We have talked about conocer and saber before. Conocer is to know someone. Okay, in the imperfect, I knew him. Okay, is conocía. Now, right here, I met him is conocí in the preterite. Okay, to know him, like to recognize him, imperfect. to have met him, that's an action in the past, specific, preterite, conocí, okay, and tried to give him a shot. Definitely, that was the action, quise, preterite. But he told me that the shot terrified him because his alien enemies used to use shots to control him. He told me, that's a really specific part of the story, and they used to. You see used to, and you see INGs, you're going to go with imperfect. He refused to let them give me the shot that day. Now this is the verb querer with the no in the front. Which one is refused? Refused is going to be the preterite one. No quiso, no quiso. No quería, he didn't want. Okay, now let's talk about imperfect, which is then interrupted, crashed, okay, by the preterite. So, I'm telling a story. Eran las 11 de la noche. That's imperfect. It was 11 o'clock at night. And I'm using the imperfect because I'm telling time. Starting the story again. Eran las 11 de la noche. Imperfect. Yo tenía 8 años. I was 8 years old. I am using the perfect again because I'm telling my age in the past. Yo estaba leyendo. I was reading. ING, use imperfect. Un libro mientras, while, mi hermana estaba durmiendo. Okay? Estaba durmiendo, ING, use imperfect. These are two simultaneous actions happening side by side, bouncing along. Okay? Same story. Eran las 11. Yo tenía 8. Estaba leyendo mientras mi hermana estaba durmiendo. Cuando de repente, when suddenly, interrupted action. Preterite crashes. We heard a sound. Okay. All right. So pause the video and see if you can choose between these two, either imperfect, bouncing along, or preterite, specific. Okay. There's some key words here. Cuando, mientras, 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 cuando, and de repente to help you. And then come back for responses. All right. Ruben estaba estudiando. Ruben was studying. I've got an ING, so I've got to use estaba. Cuando, when. Soledad entró. Here's the interrupted action. When Soledad crashed in, right? She's going to crash in with the preterite action. She entered the room. Ellos comían pastel. They were eating cake mientras, while, yo bebía refresco. Two simultaneous actions floating along right beside each other. Yo estaba jugando. I was playing. That's also bouncing along. Basketball. While they were studying. Estaban estudiando. Two simultaneous actions happening in the past. Mi mamá cocinaba. My mom was cooking while my dad dormía. While my dad was sleeping. Two actions happening in the past. Cuando sonó el teléfono. When the phone rang, I was in the bathroom. Yo estaba in the bathroom. So you could have the interruption action happen first. Okay. If I flipped my sentences, I would say I was in the bathroom when the phone rang. And that's okay. So I could do it. The interrupted action could happen first and it'll be triggered with cuando. And then my ongoing action could be after. Just look for the trigger word. Alicia estaba contenta. She was happy. That's a feeling. So we're going to use imperfect. En el concierto, cuando, when, de repente, suddenly. That sounds very like an interrupted action. Se sintió mal. She felt sick. Okay. Now let's talk about repeated or habitual actions. Used to do it. Okay. When was it? Specific or general? I was a carpenter for 3 years. Is it yo fui carpintero por 3 años o yo era carpintero? Yo fui. Very specific amount of time. 3 years. So I'm going to put fui. I was once a carpenter. Oh, not very specific. It's stating the same thing, but it's not specific anymore. Una vez yo era carpintero. Carmen went to the beach last summer. Carmen fue a la playa el verano pasado. Very specific. When did you go? Last summer. Tell me the date and the time. Carmen went to the beach every afternoon. Well, it's getting a little fuzzy. Carmen iba a la playa cada tarde. It's kind of background, ongoing information. We saw the boat every morning. Every morning is habitual, imperfect. We saw the boat yesterday. Very specific. Preterite. Okay. When we're talking about feelings, a lot of the time that will be imperfect. Okay. The words that are related to feeling, this is not 100%. Querer, preferir, poder, creer, and sentirse. Gustar, it all depends. So we have emotion, time, and weather. Ramón tenía miedo de hablar en público. Ramón was afraid. Tenía. Okay, I'm going to go with imperfect on that because it's a feeling. Yo creía que Juan podía hacerlo. I thought, I believed. Imperfect. Me gustaba el coche. I liked the car. It was pleasing to me. Okay, so I'm going to refer you back to this one, change in meaning. Remember, if the verb is conjugated in the preterite, it will have this different meaning. Tener will become received. Saber, found out. Poder, succeed. Querer, tried. No querer, refused. When it's in the imperfect, it keeps its regular meaning. Tener, to have or used to have. Knew, was able, wanted, and didn't want. Here's that screen again. Okay, let's see. Cuando yo blank niña me acostaba a las 8 de la noche. Era, imperfect. Why? Talking about age in the past. Yo vi la película 3 veces. Why? Specific amount of time. 3 times. Preterite. Muchas veces me vestía de princesa para Halloween. Many times. That's habitual action. Over and over again. Un Halloween, a specific Halloween, me vestí de princesa. That's a single action in time. I can ask you when, you give me that date. Yo tenía 13 años cuando mis padres se divorciaron. I was 13 years old, age in the past. Ella estaba enferma desde 2021 de COVID. She was sick. Desde is the trigger, it's a habitual action, and it's related to health. Ella fue a la farmacia, beginning or end of an action. She went to the pharmacy. Ella iba a la farmacia a menudo. A menudo is often. That's triggering an ongoing action. Go to imperfect. El amigo llamaba a su novia cada noche. The friend would call his girlfriend every night. Okay. Here's a little story. Pause the video and then come back and see if you've got the right answers. Érase una vez una niña que se llamaba. Ella era muy aventurera y le gustaba explorar. Background information. Un día, one day, mientras means while. That's going to trigger imperfect. La niña caminaba por el bosque. Now an action happened. Encontró. She found a house. She entered. Ella entró en la casa y vio, and she saw 3 plates of chocolate cookies on the table. Como la niña le encantaban, just as the girl loved cookies, that's an emotional thing, encantaba las galletas, she decidió sentarse y comerlas. De repente, that is always going to trigger the preterite and interruption action. Oyó un ruido en el jardín. She heard a noise in the garden. Another one. Pause the video and then come back for responses. Cuando yo tenía 10 años, age, vivía, I was living with my parents. Mi madre trabajaba, she was working, an ongoing action. Mi padre era, he was a professor, ongoing action, not specific. Fin de semana, mis padres nos llevaron, specific, one specific weekend. Our parents took us to the centro. And we saw, specific action, a play on Broadway. Mis hermanas y yo estábamos muy emocionada. We were very excited. That's emotion, so go with imperfect. Después de la obra, after the play, we ate. That's preterite, specific action. And I asked for or ordered chicken soup. Me gustó mucho. I liked it a lot. Okay, one very similar. pause the video and then see if you can decide which querer you're going to use. Queríamos, el hombre no quiso, supieron, el chico sabía, pudimos, hace 5 años que conocí, I received a letter, tuve, Carmen tenía, Arturo quiso, María quiso, las chicas podían, los hermanos tuvieron. Okay, pause, fill in your blanks. El borracho no quiso, le conocía bien, reconoció, en aquella época conocíamos, Alberto pudo, no podía, 19 Juan supo, and 20 las señoritas no querían. These are the ones with changes in meaning. Remember, in the preterite, it changes the meaning. In the imperfect, it retains the original meaning. Okay, these are your assignments for the week. Please do these carefully. Please let me know if you need any help. Adios.